Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today is going to be our last day in Chapter 6 dealing with law of sines and law of cosines. Now, we've spent a couple days on law of sines, and now we've spent a couple days on law of cosines. And so now we're going to put it all together. I'm going to give you a random assortment of triangles to solve. Some of them are going to be law of cosine problems, and some of them are going to be law of sines problems. So up on the screen, you'll see this flowchart to help you figure out in which cases you do law of sines, in which cases you do law of cosines. So remember that these abbreviations are for the given information of the original problem. So if you're given three sides, we're going to consider that an SSS, or if you're given an angle sandwiched between two given sides, we're going to call that SAS. And these flowcharts will help you figure out how to get started on the problem. So if you're given AAS, SSA, or ASA, you're going to start with the law of sines. Now be particularly careful when you're dealing with the SSA case, because when you actually go to do the problem, you could have any one of three outcomes. With that ambiguous case, you could have no solutions, one solution, or two solution. So that's really the only tricky one. Outside of SSA, then we're only going to have one solution, but the only question mark is then how do you complete the problem? Do you use law of sines or law of cosines? So if it's AAS or ASA, you're going to use law of sines, and if it's SSS or SAS, you're going to use law of cosines. Now, the only skill that I want to help you develop today is just making that decision. Which method do you use on which problems? So I'm going to skip ahead to the next slide here, and you'll see that I have 5 groups of given information. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pause the video here, and I'd like you to try to draw all 5 of those triangles. This may take a little bit of a while, but it's worth it just because this is the type of information that you're going to be given on today's assignment, the practice test, and the actual test. So why don't you pause the video, try to draw 5 triangles, and if you want to take the extra step to figure out which way you would solve the triangle, go ahead and do that step as well. If you draw all 5 triangles, here they are. You may have them oriented slightly differently. I think your labels should be the same. And I think these are drawn fairly proportionally, so I think these are accurate to what the actual numbers are. So we can see right here that we have 2 angles and a side. Now, we didn't know in which order those were, but you can see that we have angle, angle, side. So that's going to be law of sines. Here we have a side angle, so this is law of sines, but this is going to be the ambiguous case because we're SSA. Here we have 3 sides. That one's always easy to spot because it just says side, right? So that's law of cosines. Over here we've got angle, side, angle, which I believe is law of sines, and here we must have a side, angle, side. Yes, side, angle, side, so that'll be law of cosines. So in order to get these problems started, these would be your first step. Use law of sines here as your first step, law of cosines here, law of sines here. This one's going to be a little bit trickier problem, so these are your level 3, level 4 type problems because you're going to have more than one case. And then this is law of cosines, just straight up one solution, law of sines, straight up one solution. So the only one that you have to spend a bit of time on is this one. But you should be able to draw the triangle and determine what is my first step. And then once you have determined your first step, go ahead and execute it. And you can refer back to the previous 2 videos on law of sines or law of cosines if you want to remember exactly the nuances on how to fully solve a triangle. Your homework today is up on the website. It's 6.1 and 6.2. There are 6 problems waiting for you to do there. And all I want you to do for the Schoology submission today is just submit which method you're going to use on each problem. Until next time, I'll see you then.